Hello, folks. So here is an opportunity for us to take some notes about box and whisker plots. This is a perfect follow-up to what we were learning yesterday in class about the measures of dispersion or measures of variation in data. We learned a lot about these measures yesterday, and then today we're just learning about how we make box and whisker plots to summarize what we've learned about those numbers. So everything that you see here should be something that you recognize. We know how to find median. We learned yesterday how to find the first quartile or lower quartile and the upper quartile. I think yesterday we called it the first quartile, so you could also call this the lower quartile and the first quartile are the same thing. So when you see those two different names in two different places, they mean the same thing. And the upper quartile is also called the third quartile. It's just called different things in different places, okay? And so you can abbreviate this as either like LQ or quartile 1. You can abbreviate this one as either UQ, or you can call it quartile 3. And then the median we can abbreviate as M, and we can call the lower extreme, this is just the smallest number, we're going to call it LE, and the upper extreme we're going to call it UE. So when you see those abbreviations, that's what it means, okay? And it's the 5 important data points, which are also sometimes called it's called like the 5-number summary, the summary that summarizes what's important about your data and how it's all spread out. It divides your data up into 4 equal parts. Each part is 25% of the data. And then we said yesterday, the middle 50%, this part that's in the middle is the interquartile range. All right, so this is the interquartile range. We said you sound really smart when you start talking about interquartile range, but it's just the bigger one minus the smaller one. Subtract the 2 quartiles, and that's the interquartile range. Range just means subtract. Bigger minus smaller. We can abbreviate it as IQR. And the IQR is the middle piece of the data, and in the middle of that is the median. Okay, so all of that is the important information that you just need to have. It's here in your notes so that you have it. And then you'll just remember these things about boxes. The whiskers reach out to the lower extreme and the upper extreme. So here they're saying the whiskers, this is one whisker that reaches out to the lower extreme. This is the other whisker that reaches out to the upper extreme. We looked at box and whisker plots in our bell ringer a couple weeks ago too. So you've seen this before. Each of the quartiles in this one are all about the same size. They're all about the same width. So that means that this data is evenly distributed. But then sometimes, so there's another one that shows data that is evenly distributed because each piece is about the same size. You can see each of these quarters representing each piece is 25% of the data. So we have a quarter for 25% each. Then this one has data that's really spread out here, and we got a very wide quarter, and then the data up here is smushed together even more. You can see the quarters get more smushed together. So sometimes the data is evenly distributed, sometimes it's more spread out, but the bottom line is that each quarter is always worth 25 cents, and each spot on our box and whisker plot is always worth 25% or 1/4. It's 4 equal parts. So each one of these things is 25%. Always, always, always. Even when they change size and they look more spread out or more smushed together, like in this one, they're still always, each piece is 25%. So this is going to ask you sort of the same thing over and over again, just so that you can see that even when the size of them changes, they're still worth 25 cents. Each one is still worth 25%, and there is no change. And that is going to be true for all of these. So the same thing happens down here. They're all still worth 25 cents. Each piece is still worth 25%. There's no change. 25 cents, 25%, no change. You can specifically write out that there's no change, or just recognize that even though the data might get closer and farther apart, each piece of the box and whisker plot still represents 25% of the data. This is just a good reference page. I'm not expecting you to memorize everything on this page, but basically if there's extra pieces left over when you try to divide it up into 4 equal parts, those extra pieces become the medians and the quartiles. So if there is an odd number of data items, then the one in the middle is the median, and we don't include that when we're counting the lower half and the upper half. If it's an even number, then you put a line right down the middle and all of your data is split up into 2 equal groups. So this is just a page to look at if you're trying to figure out whether or not there's extra pieces or not. I wouldn't try to memorize that. I would just remember where that is in your notes and you can look back at it. All right, and then our 5 key values, we're going to label in blue on this first box and whisker plot, and then you can do it on like maybe 2 more on this page. You don't need to do it for all of them because it's very repetitive, but the smallest number is your lower extreme. Like we said, the biggest number is your upper extreme. And then the quartiles are the 2 edges of your box. Your box is drawn from the first quartile to the third quartile. And so we can call this quartile 1. Or you can also call it the lower quartile. So if I do the same thing here, this is lower extreme and upper extreme. You can call the left-hand side of your box either your lower quartile or you can call it quartile 1. Those both mean the same thing, so you can pick either name for that. The number that's in the middle of your box is always the median. That's the number that divides your data in half. And then the right-hand side of your box is always your upper quartile or the third quartile. So you can, again, use either one of those names for that. We're going to take the first quartile and we are going to label it in purple. So in both of these, the first quartile is the left-hand whisker. That is in purple. We're going to do the second quartile in green stripes in both of our pictures. And then we're going to make purple polka dots in our third quartile. So I'm going to make purple polka dots here. All right, and then your fourth quartile, the top 25% of your data, we're going to do in orange. And last but not least, we're going to label the interquartile range. Both of the quartiles, the middle half of the data is inside the box, and that's your interquartile range. So I've done all the coloring and labeling on these first 2. I'd like for you to do it on at least 2 more of these. You can label all the things in blue like I did and then do all the colors. So go through the key and do that for at least 2 more of these just to practice labeling them. And I hope that helps you to learn about box and whisker plots. Certainly send me any messages if you have any questions, and I hope you're having a great day.